You know, when I was living in Korea, I noticed something interesting. I didn't think about it really until now, but that memory came up when I had this realization. So, the memory from Korea was that when I went to one of those public bathhouses that they have, so there's like a hot pool and then an even hotter pool at like 41 degrees Celsius, and then there's like a cold water pool. And I just noticed when I was at that bathhouse and sitting in either the cold or the hot water to the point where it's like really uncomfortable, I had all these thoughts coming up as if it's like purgatory, and it makes me like repent for my sins. Like literally, it felt like that. Like I'm sitting in this really hot water or in the really cold water, and I'm freezing or like just being feeling way too hot to the point of passing out, right? And in that moment, um, I don't know, like it's like my thoughts become just way more clear, and it feels like I'm thinking about things that are like really just unhelpful, but I keep thinking them, and I just see them kind of like with this, like go away, ew, like, ew, kind of. And I think this kind of ew reaction that came from this clarity that I had in there for some reason. Like when I was feeling this really uncomfortable feeling that I couldn't ignore, right? And what I realized that I think the reason for that is because when you have like when you do like an ice bath or a cold shower or something, or you go out into nature, um, those those things will kind of force you to be present to some degree or another. Obviously, like nature is much more subtle and you know, it doesn't shock you like that, so it's a lot more comfortable to just go out in nature. But it still has this, obviously, like the beauty of nature, it does make you present to some degree, even if you feel like you don't give a shit, right? So that's why you feel a little bit better, because after going out into nature you have this kind of meditative walk. You get present with what's really going on in your life, and you just think about it a little bit more clearly. You just get a breather, you know, like you literally get a breather from this this thought pattern that you have been in until now, just very compulsively. So I guess you can interrupt that by going out into nature, especially I guess if you don't feel like it, because that's just a sign that you are really in this kind of mindset where you just don't even want to do anything that's good for you anymore. And I mean, this is definitely something I've experienced. Like, I think I'm not alone with this, but when you feel really, really down, then it's almost like you don't want to change for the better. Like, you don't want things to be good. You don't want to go out into nature because it's like, man, what does that even do? It's not gonna do anything. Like, just leave me alone. Like, just leave me be. And you know what? That's also quite valid, actually, because if we actually just gave ourselves the space then to just let it all be, I think you would get over this kind of bad mood. But the people who get stuck in a bad mood the most probably are the ones who are just not present. Like the people who are the least present, I think they're probably the most likely to get stuck in these bad moods because they just never process them. They're always in their heads, and that is me definitely. And I think, like, I recently kind of had this other realization that, wait a second, is this maybe what ADHD is about? Like, I'm starting to think that ADHD is not some, I mean, I think in general, to be honest, all physical and mental ailments are just a manifestation of like what's going on in your mind. Like if you're just feeling some negative things, but then you just that negativity is stuck in you, it makes sense that that shit is manifesting in your in your body and in your behavior and in your thought patterns and feelings, right? So that's, I think, the reason really why the cold plunges and stuff, why people swear on them. They didn't understand the mechanics behind them, but they just like, okay, it works, and then they try to convince others to do them, but people are like, nah, because they don't see why they should do them, and that's just fair. I think what we fail to understand, like the vast majority of us, I think we fail to understand that different, like from a different perspective, it's just hard to relate. Like if you want to truly change somebody's perspective, you really have to be able to think from their perspective, because otherwise you cannot relate, obviously. So what you say to them will not make sense to them. They think different because their perspective is different, and that's why it seems like you cannot help them, right? Like the people who will help others out of a bad mindset are the ones who've been there themselves. And this is also why I'm talking about all these things, because I've gone through all these negative patterns and stuff, and I'm still going through them, still working on them. So that's the only reason why I can even talk about them. Another interesting thing on that, how do I say, on that note, is I think we're overcomplicating everything. We are all different, yes. We all have like a different background story, obviously, and our circumstances are unique. But at the end of the day, we all feel the same emotions, just, varying intensities and stuff. And everybody knows what it's like to be frustrated. Everybody knows what it's like to be angry and stuff. And everybody knows what it's like to be happy. So it shouldn't be that complicated to understand each other and understand yourself. Like we should be more easily able to relate and understand each other, and not be so negative towards each other, like, and so judgmental. And yeah, obviously that's to do with like where we're at right now, like a kind of global or like societal level of consciousness, where like, we are obviously more aware than in the Middle Ages, where they used like torture methods, or had the death penalty like everywhere. So now we are obviously at a little higher level of consciousness, where we're not doing these things, at least to each other anymore, at least not in a grand scale, to where people are just like watching it publicly and it's normal, or all these things. This when you like, tell me if you can relate, but when I was in school, I remember thinking like, oh my god, people were so fucked up back then. And tell me if you didn't have the same thought. But I was at several points in my life thinking, yeah, people in the future are also gonna think the same thing about people at our time, where they're like, damn, like the fuck, people were just horrible to each other, and they still do all these things, and they're throwing their trash everywhere in nature. What the fuck, these people, like, there was something wrong with them, or like all the kind of, I guess it's not really, there's not really much of a point to get into it, but yeah, as we are becoming more aware, and like as we're becoming more aware, we're also having like a higher moral standard, right? So I think if in some way, somehow, we continue to become like less and less barbaric, right? Like keep improving the way we have until now, kind of historically, even though there were some dips, obviously, like World War I and II. But then I guess things will get better, and I think the internet will also help with that, since now people can communicate in a global scale, and like they have all the information at their fingertips. If they don't understand something about themselves, if they have some problem that they're dealing with, they can just look it up on YouTube or Google, and they will find all the other people who are having the same problems. Right, so what I meant to say was that it shouldn't be so hard to relate to each other, because we all experience the same exact feelings, even though our circumstances are different. But the problem why we cannot relate to each other is the same reason why we don't even understand ourselves. The reason is because we are not present with our feelings. We're not present with ourselves. And it's such a cliche thing to say, because people keep saying it. The people who understand it, they keep saying it. But the people who need to hear it, they don't understand. Like, it doesn't make sense. How is being present gonna solve anything, right? This is the perspective you have when you're not being present, when you don't want to meditate, is exactly this. Why the fuck would I try to be, like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be somewhere else, right? That's why you keep thinking so much. You're trying to get away from where you are because like, either you don't like your situation, you're trying to get out of it. I mean, that's basically actually the same thing, right? Either you feel like just super uncomfortable and you're trying to get out of it, or you just really, really want this different situation that you're imagining in your head. So either way, you're trying to get out of this situation. You don't want to be here and acknowledge it and, everything is good as it is. Because you feel like, okay, if I get complacent, then I'm gonna stay in this place, and then I'm never gonna change, right? So the fundamental misunderstanding here is that we are externalizing everything that we are feeling on the inside. So when you're angry, you get irritated by everything. Everybody knows this. When you're in an angry mood, every little thing irritates you. And when you're in a happy mood, then everything is brighter. And when you're in love, then everything is more lovely. It's not the environment, it's you. So, but yeah, like, we don't like to acknowledge that somehow. I guess it's just a fundamental misunderstanding, right, of how things work. And I'm still also dealing with this. I'm not a Buddha, so still like struggling to accept things as they are and just trying to change things. But at least I really, really know that at the same time, I know it's not gonna make me happy, because I've been there. I've done, like, I got everything I wanted, and then I was still the same person, and I actually just, I ruined the whole thing basically with my insecurities and all these things. So anyway, you need to be present and feel your feelings if you want to understand them. It should be obvious, but it's not obvious to us. We think being present is not gonna change anything, it's not gonna do anything, or like, we try to avoid even feeling our feelings because we have this judgment that these feelings are bad and we want to avoid them. And that then makes us want to change our situation so that we don't have to feel these feelings. But what we don't understand is that these feelings will follow us everywhere we go, and we're going to continue to feel them even though we make all these changes that we think is going to make us feel better. It just doesn't work. And fundamental problem we have now is that the people who have understood this don't understand the other side. So like, there needs to be like this bridge of understanding. This understanding is gonna be like, understanding both perspectives is gonna be the bridge that we need to kind of level up our consciousness to that kind of point where we stop chasing material things to try to fix ourselves. And obviously, saying these kind of things is already become a cliche, and that speaks for itself, right? It's a cliche and nobody listens to it. Personally, I was just really, really curious why some people change and why some people don't. And I think the reason why I was so curious was because I'm one of them. I'm one of those people who just couldn't change. Like, I don't know, I just couldn't lie to myself. That's the bigger issue, really. I knew instinctually that even if I now earn a bunch of money and I got all these things, I knew, like, okay, this is not gonna fix me, and I actually want to feel better. I mean, I didn't exactly know that it's gonna not fix me, but I just wanted to feel better. And what I knew is that working on these things is not making me happier, right? I couldn't lie to myself. Like, all these people were pissing me off, like all these online gurus who were like, teach how to make money online and look at this e-com business and do this and this. Because that shit was fucking boring to me and I didn't want to do it. So I was like, dude, why are you so, like, why are you feeling so motivated? Like, this shit looks boring. And by the way, I still think that. I still think that these businesses are fucking boring. I would never want to do them. But I guess what I didn't understand back then was that it's okay for me not to like what I don't like. There's nothing wrong with me. There's a lot of things that need to be said about this, but I don't want to pack them all in this video. So for now, I'll try to keep it on this topic of presence, right? If people were present and just felt what they feel before they thought, then they would understand themselves better. Because somehow when you're thinking first, when you're like trying to figure out solutions and trying to change things in the outside world even, instead of just feeling your feelings first, you're just kind of in la-la land. You're ignoring the real issue. That's fundamentally why. You're just ignoring yourself. Like, literally, that's what you're doing. You are ignoring yourself and expecting things to change when, even, like, okay, now you forced yourself into like doing all these hard things that you have no interest in doing, but yay, here we go. Now you have this shiny achievement, or, you know, like, now you have this kind of dream situation that you've been dreaming of that was gonna make you feel all better, and it does. But inside, there's still this huge discontentment. I think that's like probably the best way to really bring the issue closer to heart of the people who really need to hear this. And the people who need to hear this most are the ones probably who are the most certain about their path. But I guess those people are lost because they will never listen to this kind of message, and especially not this long, because I think this video at this point is like 20 minutes or something. Yeah, people who are disciplined. People who are really disciplined, they hustle, and they are like, don't be a pussy. Don't be weak. Don't be lazy. You don't like it? Fuck it. Who cares? Just keep doing it. It will make you happy in the end. This is where we're at right now. We are doing things that make us unhappy because we think they will make us happy. Like, yeah, I'm not happy now doing them, but if I do them long enough, then I will be happy in the future. Yes, you know, like those things, like having a lot of money, and like having a great partner and all these things, having all these things on the outside, yeah, obviously it does make you feel good, but it really doesn't make up for the loss of your soul. You know, I didn't really read the Bible a lot, but there's this particular like phrase from it. It's somewhere in Matthew. It goes, "For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul?" That's it, you know? Like, you may gain the whole world, you may conquer the whole world while you're ignoring yourself and pushing yourself, but it will never make up for the loss of your soul. That's the sad thing. Like, you can achieve everything you want, and it's not really going to help you, unfortunately. those same bigger issues that you're dealing with, they will all persist. So if you are unfulfilled at your workplace and you start a business that is unfulfilling to you to get out of this workplace, then you're still dealing with the exact same issue. And I don't know, like particularly in this area, I don't get it. Yeah, I don't get it. Like, I don't get people who will start a business that is unfulfilling to them and force themselves through it all the way to chase money and success. I never understood that. That's the one thing I never understood. To me, it made sense to say, okay, I'm lonely, I feel miserable by myself, like I don't feel any love, let me get a partner, let me get a loving partner, let me get the perfect girlfriend, and then I will feel better. Or lusting for like a lot of different women and then thinking that, okay, if you get laid a lot, then that's gonna get better. This kind of makes sense to me, because obviously you have an itch and you think scratching the itch is gonna make it better. It makes sense, right? But if you are unfulfilled at your workplace and you feel trapped and you feel like it's pointless, and then you start a business that you obviously think it's pointless, and that's why you have to force yourself to do it, like you don't want to do it, you literally don't want to do it, but you're forcing yourself to it because you think it's gonna make anything better. That never made sense to me. I think especially actually videos that don't get watched. If you are thinking about making some videos but you feel like it's not really good enough or something, or that you are not good enough, it's actually quite valuable, I think, to make those videos. Because most people, they will wait until they are already considered successful by like society standards. And so the people who could really relate to a lot of other people, like let's say you are like depressed like me. I mean, I'm not really depressed now, but I have still like a very high tendency to feel depressed. Those type of people who are not considered to be in the place where you should be according to society, like, you know, like how do I even say this? I guess it would be like low status people, like people who are just considered to be low status. Like they will feel like, okay, who's gonna listen to this, right? Nobody wants to hear this, right? And if you're just kind of ranting, then maybe that's true. Although some people, it will feel like, okay, I'm not alone, so it could also help them. But if you just have like this kind of insight about where you are at in your life, and then this made you feel better, then you shouldn't feel like it's not good enough to post. Because if you think about it, we all can relate. It's kind of, again, like what I said with emotions, like everybody's experiencing the same emotions. Like we might be at a different level each, or like we might be at a different level of consciousness, right? Like some people are on the streets, some people are living in mansions, and so we feel like, okay, so those people who are living in a mansion, what could they learn from a homeless person, right? That's how people will feel like, okay, I'm not good enough, like what I have to say, nobody can learn from it, because that's what society will be like telling us. Like this is drilled into our heads by everybody, that your perspective is not valuable unless you're rich, and everybody's only looking to those rich people for advice and not to other people. But really, if you are learning a lesson and it makes you feel better, then you can share that lesson, and probably anyone could learn from that, no matter if they are in a completely different situation. If your lesson helped you to overcome some frustration, or it helped you to overcome sadness, right? Then probably everybody can learn from that. And that's why we can, that's why we can even relate to each other. Like, if that was not the case, then how would we be able to relate to each other when we have these completely different life experiences, right? So obviously people can relate to you even though they don't have the same experience as you, because those experiences are all the same, even though, like, no matter if they're at like a lower level, quote unquote, because, oh, you're almost poor, you're almost broke, and look at me, I'm a millionaire. So you know, if we're talking about money, then sure, right? Sure, you might not have much to say about the money problem because you haven't solved this problem yourself. But anything else, why would your opinion be worthless? This is something we really, really need to overcome. Yeah, anyway, this video has probably gone on too long so far, so I'll just probably put the rest in another video. Okay, but anyway, if you watched till here, thank you for watching, and leave a comment and tell me what you think. Tell me what you would like to hear some advice about, if you have some questions which you think I can answer. And other than that, thank you and take care. See you tomorrow.